On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 1974. We're going to be taking a look at Luke Kelly, and he's going to be performing Scorn, Not His Simplicity. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So just to give a bit of context behind this composition, it was originally written by Phil Coulter, and it was about his firstborn son who was born with Down syndrome. So let's get Luke and the guys up on screen and see how they get on.
Desi, John, would you give me a C chord, please? The child with the golden hair, but eyes that show the emptiness inside. Do we know? Can we understand just how he feels, or have we really tried? See him now as he stands alone and watches children play a children's game. Simple child, he looks almost like the others, yet they know he's not the same. Scorn not his simplicity, but rather try to love him all the more. Scorn not his simplicity, oh no, oh no. See him stare, not recognizing that kind face that only yesterday he loved. The loving face of a mother who can't understand what she's been guilty of. How she cried tears of happiness the day the doctor told her it's a boy. Now she cries tears of helplessness and thinks of all the things he can't enjoy. Scorn not his simplicity, but rather try to love him all the more. Scorn not his simplicity, oh no. Hopefully surrounded by despair. He won't ask for your pity or your sympathy, but surely you must care. Scorn not his simplicity, but rather try to love him all the more. Scorn not his simplicity, oh no, oh no, oh
And there we have it. As always, the link to this video is going to be in the description below, so you guys can watch it again there if you want to. But this is a classic folk performance, just the guys gathering round with their instruments, just got their beers on the table, and they are interacting so dynamically, musically, because they're all leaving space for each other. Nobody's trying to take the limelight here. And this is what it was all about, just getting out whatever instrument you happen to play and just playing music. And back in the day, before copyright and royalties, you had just songs that everybody knew who were part of a particular community, and there were songs about humanity and folklore of that community that were involved in the performances. It's something as well that with folk music being such a fundamental part of a community, that some of the songs will be political in nature, and that is certainly something that would go on throughout the 60s with different artists, singer-songwriters who were folk musicians. They would start to write about their beliefs and what they think should happen, what is wrong with the political system, and certainly Luke wasn't one of those that was quiet on that side of things as well. The other thing to consider is that this could sound like a bit of a mess if we weren't talking about great musicians, because they might start to step on each other's feet and not leave enough space for each other. And another thing to point out is the fiddle that we have here, just playing the main melody line of the song, and that's exactly what Luke is singing. But with that fiddle, we've got that constant application of vibrato, so it means that the fiddle's going to be singing the whole time. Those notes are just going to float through the air with that subtle, controlled vibrato that is so well played. Also the flute that just drops in and out, and again, so well played dynamically. It's all sitting underneath Luke's voice, because that is where the message is of the song, and that's what this music is all about. We have actually got quite a lot going on in this performance. We will get the guitar out in a second, but I love the way that this starts off with Luke just asking for a C chord, and then they are into it with a little bit of fingerstyle on that acoustic guitar. The fiddle comes in. Also, we do have some drums in there, subtly played in the background, but this is so well put together dynamically, because your attention is never taken away from Luke when he's singing. But then as soon as we do have a solo section on the fiddle, for example, or if you do listen out to those flute lines, they are so well played, and this is it. It's having the technical ability in order to sell a solo section on your given instrument and not lose everybody because the technical ability isn't of the right level to communicate with an audience and connect with them. You'll also notice how the flute is just sitting in those sections between vocals and very softly in the background, sometimes overlapping or underlapping with Luke's lead vocal. It's not the same as the fiddle, which is playing that main melody line the whole time. So it means that that flute is just filling in the spaces, keeping the interest. Obviously, if you did have three instruments all playing the lead melody line of the vocalist, it would be a little bit too much. You need to start to designate separate instruments for separate melody lines within a composition. Putting Luke's vocals under the spotlight here, it is a classic folk delivery of having that talking, speaking, storytelling quality to it. And Luke is hitting pitches here throughout the composition, otherwise you wouldn't be able to sing it because there would be no melody running through it. But he's certainly being strict with melody. He's throwing in vibrato as well, subtly, but it definitely is in there. But he never loses that ability to connect, as if he's just talking one-on-one with somebody else telling the story of the song. Looking at the notes and the range that Luke covers throughout this performance, you won't necessarily notice that we do cover over an octave here, because Luke is in that baritone range, so it means that all of that delivery has that talking quality to it. He goes as low as a G2 and as high as an A3. So that is over an octave, which you tend to find in most songs to give you that light and shade and to take you on a journey. So just to jump into the guitar work we've got going on here, we start on a C, and it's all standard tuning here. What you'll want to do is probably play this finger style. You can play it with a pick if you want to, but it's going to be more authentic with the fingers here. You can either play it with your finger picks on and use your thumb pick as well, or just with your fingers as I'm doing here. So we're starting with this C, and in terms of the sequence that we want on the right hand, we want to start with your root note of that C, so that's your A string with your thumb. And then we've got thumb, first finger, and that first finger played the G string, and then the second and the third finger play the B string and the high E string together. Like that. And then we've got a little run that comes in. There's one extra pick with that first finger on the G. And then you want to squash down your first finger to get that F on the high E string, so your first fret is being squashed down and barred. It might take a little bit of practice to get used to barring that first finger down, but when you do it, you'll get that sound. So we have this. Like that, just going through that cycle. When you do bar down with that first finger, on the right hand, that's just your high E string, B string, and G string, going 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, the sequence on that right hand. I am playing this a little less dynamically than they do in the performance because I want you guys to hear it over the microphone, but when we stick it together, we have like that. And if you want to continue, go over to a D minor. Like that, into a G. Like that. Getting into the chorus, we've got A minor, F minor, C, A minor, F minor, C into a G, I believe, and the same rules apply for this right hand. The root note of your chord is being played by the thumb, and your first finger, second finger, and third finger are playing the G string, the B string, and the high E string. So the A minor sounds like this. The F minor will sound like this. And then the C. Like that. Second time through, exactly the same thing happens, but we end on a G. So I'll play through it quickly. And then we'll be back into the verse at that point. I do want to get into Luke's history briefly in this video, considering as well that where that folk revival happened, starting in the 1940s, but peaking in the 1960s, he was so prevalent in that. But starting out, when he was young, he left school at age 13, and he went off to do various jobs, cleaning lavatories, windows, railways, and rarely his face, as he said in the past. He always had an interest in music and used to listen to all kinds of artists, Fats Domino, Al Jolson, Frank Sinatra, Perry Como, to name a few. In 1960, he acquired the use of a banjo, and at this time, the folk revival was up and running in England, and that's where he found himself busking, also playing at Ewan McCall's and Peggy Seeger's Singers Club in London. He had a keen interest in politics as well, and that really did run parallel with his music. In 1962, he went back to Dublin because the folk revival was taking off over there as well, and he founded the band, the Dubliners, in 1962, and they released their debut album called The Dubliners in 1964, and that included the Rocky Road to Dublin, and in 1964 is when he did leave the band for almost 2 years, but then he did return, and they had massive hits, top 20 hits, with 7 Drunken Nights and the Black Velvet Band. They appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show in 1968 and also toured New Zealand and Australia, and this is when Phil Coulter got involved as well from a management perspective, and that's where this song, Scorn Not His Simplicity, came from. It was one of those songs that Luke didn't perform a lot and just performed it once on TV, which is the performance that we're looking at here, because he had such respect for the song, but also the subject matter of the song as well. On Raglan Road and Scorn Not His Simplicity have turned into significant reference songs in Irish folk music. Sadly, in 1980, Luke collapsed on stage and he was diagnosed with a brain tumour. They did operate in order to try and remove that, but his health just deteriorated from then on and he sadly passed away in 1984. But fortunately, we do have these videos on YouTube that we can refer back to see Luke here in full flow with such a laid back and classic folk performance, just playing around a table, and what a fantastic delivery and dynamic performance it is. Thank you guys so much for suggesting this video for me to take a look at, and keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!